Derek Overstreet, founder of the New Millennium Group. We're a financial planning firm. We have advisors standing by right now to take your call. 888-999-6370. The reason you're going to want to call is we're going to help you retire 3 to 5 years before you thought possible. The way we do this is by putting together a step-by-step plan. So if you're one of those people listening and you'd like a plan in writing, give us a call at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or go to utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Only one type of burger. For every pallet. Fries are extra. Large in size. We've got the shakes. Going over the brim.
Hey, this is Chris from JCW's. Put a positive, delicious spin on your day at any one of our 5 locations. In Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, or Harriman. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, the news of the morning. Utah State with a new basketball coach. Ben Jacobson's making the move from Northern Iowa. A Panther turning in his gear after 2 decades as their head coach. He won 397 games in 20 years. Do the math, that's almost 20 wins per season. So he'll make the move to Utah State and become their 6th head coach in the last decade and try to keep things rolling with the Aggies. Final Four is also set. Michigan, that was impressive. My gosh, they just hammered Tennessee, who had a great tournament run. It came to a screeching halt. And then do you feel like UConn won that game at the end, or Duke made mistakes and gave it away? Is there more blame either way?
I would go more for the credit for UConn because, obviously that last play where the Boozer son threw the ball when he didn't have to because they wouldn't have got a backcourt, and there's no such for the 5-second calls don't apply in the backcourt. But, they were down by 19, and so they had to come back. And it wasn't like Duke was really screwing up the whole time. I think that UConn, Hurley's a tough kid. He's a Jersey City kid. Those kids are that's pavement there, man. That's tough. My grandmother lived there, and I think they reflect his scrappy attitude, and they managed to get it done. And then that kid Mullins hits that shot. Wow, it's amazing. That was one of those things. If you're sitting there, you let loose with some type of audible wow or oh or something. You know what I mean?
I did.
Yeah, I did too.
And as the whole play's unfolding, you're like, no way. What are they doing? The whole thing was crazy. And when they lost the ball, I thought that'd be crazy if they throw one in. And when he started to let it go, you just thought he'll probably make it. It does fit your theory of there's no pressure. You got to take the shot.
Right. Yeah.
It goes in with 0.3 of a second. There's 2 seconds left. I mean, what are you going to do, really? Where are you going? You're open. You might as well take it.
Right.
So he did.
If he passes the ball, then the next guy has to really kind of fumble it and get it up there quick. So, yeah, it was the right decision, obviously.
Yeah. Let's bring in Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, joins us every week here on The Zone. And, Steve, do you feel really good for UConn, or do you feel really bad for Duke?
Oh, man. Both those programs have won championships and have had great success. And you always feel badly when it's a long, shot. How it played out. Those are difficult. It just happens so sudden that it just takes the air out of your whole body and soul. And but it's how the game's played, and it's what the magic about this tournament, year in and year out. We never get let down. I mean, honestly, it's just amazing how these games unfold, and just the excitement of what took place yesterday. And God bless them all, man. I mean, it's a tough deal, and they get to so close. But to watch a deflected pass turn into a 30 or 40-foot buzzer beater shot, it doesn't get any better than that. I mean, it was so exciting, and I don't have a vested interest in any of these teams, but I still get nervous for everybody.
Yeah, I'm wondering, a lot of heat going towards Duke's way. They had Cameron Shire, and he's pointing as to throw the ball, advance it down the floor. And Boozer's son there, both of them actually committed turnovers, I guess, in the last couple of possessions for Duke. But in the moment, you can coach for forever and go through a million different things and then not go over that. That's the craziness of sports. Now, if they are ever in that situation again, that won't happen. But they've never been in that situation. It's like the point is, how can you cover everything all the time, particularly in those crazy final seconds? It seems like it's impossible, and they got burned by it.
Yeah, and just it's something as simple as a deflected pass, and how that unfolded into a 30 or 40-foot shot to win the thing at the buzzer. You do prepare. I will say this. These are all great coaches and a lot of good coaches in the country. There's a lot of time and preparation that's put into late game situations. Okay, and I'm not saying that you could have foreseen that or what was going to take place, but good coaches and good programs look at last 5 seconds, last 10 seconds, three-quarter court shot, got to get it to the paint. I mean, there's so many different scenarios that you prepare for, not knowing how it's going to play out at the end. But when you've had that kind of preparation, and I'm not talking about a 30 or 40-foot shot that goes in at the buzzer on a deflected pass, because that's just the karma of the whole day. I mean, it just happened. But I will say this, and all of these coaches are prepared for late game situations. Maybe not so dramatic as the one we saw yesterday, but it's still stuff that you prepare for. And you never know what's going to happen. But man, that's what makes this game so special, and those moments for fans watching. And I don't think we're done having some pretty amazing thing happens with the Final Four coming, and with Illinois. No, I don't think anybody's thinking that Illinois has got a chance, and everybody's thinking UConn does. But Dusty May at Michigan, you know what? They're really good and neutralize. They've got to neutralize Arizona's paint touches and paint points and do the things they've got to do. But I mean, I think these are all going to be. I just don't see any blowout games here. I just think there's so much pressure and so much preparation, especially defensively. It's going to be hard to score. And a lot of it will come down to transition baskets. And really what impacts games more than anything is turnovers that turn into points.
Yeah.
And, that's the killer, and that's the unknown about who wins championships.
Well, Duke certainly had a problem with that. And when they were rolling in the first half, they had Cam Boozer. He was just going to town, and UConn had no answers. And just as you were coming on, PK was talking about Hurley and the Jersey attitude and all that. I thought the way UConn defended in the second half, when there really wasn't much hope, was really impressive. And if there's any takeaway for our local teams here, it's like, if you're planning on getting to the tournament and then making a run once you're there, just got to be way better on defense. The teams that are making these tournament runs, and it's not purely defense, because if purely defense, Houston would still be going. So you've got to have shooting, you got to have offense. But my gosh, UConn, they played really hard at the defensive end and really got Boozer pretty quiet in the second half.
They did. I think Reed was really, really impactful in this game in terms of scoring. And, they had double-figure scoring with Mullins, Damari, Ball. Smith had 9, I think. I don't know. When games, obviously the Boozers and Duke, and they've been special teams. Cameron had 27, 8, and 4. Not like they played poorly. Caden Boozer had 15, 5, and 1. They shoot 52% and 40% for the three-point line and lose.
Yeah.
That's what hurts. Is that, man, look at what we did. And the similar thing, I think it was last year that Duke lost to Houston.
Yeah.
When they were up 6 with just a short amount of time. And so Duke's got to be feeling a little bit snake bit right now. But it hurts. It hurts for a while, and eventually you get through it and you move on. But that's a tough loss for Duke.
So you had an opportunity to watch Cam Boozer a bit play basketball. So from your perspective, if it comes down to Boozer or DeBonsa, who do you like?
I like DeBonsa. I think DeBonsa has the ability to score in more multiple ways. And, nobody gets into the paint and elevates. And, he creates space better than anybody that I saw this year in the game. And that's what I like about him, is that you're not going to stop him from getting a shot. Now, you can double team him, and maybe that's the best way what you do with anyone. And, you go double, but then all of a sudden it's kind of how that game ended. All of a sudden the ball gets bounced away, and a good three-point shooter gets the ball, but it was still had to be a 30 or 40-foot shot. And but I like AJ. I just think he's so much more versatile. And it's not to say that, both the Boozer boys are going to be involved. They're going to be in the NBA, and they're going to have long careers. But my money's on AJ. I just think he's one of the most gifted players in the country. I think he can have an immediate impact in the NBA. Not that he's an all-star, but he's going to have an impact on whatever team he goes to. Unfortunately, when you're a first or a second round draft pick, you usually go to a team that hasn't been winning lately. But AJ can make a difference wherever he goes.
Yeah, that's what would be cool about the Jazz if they got that pick, because whoever does go to the Jazz is not going into a bad situation, is going to go into a good situation. Yeah.
Man, wouldn't that be special for AJ to be here? And I know how much he loves his community and the state, and I just – his comments and just being around him and the family. That'd be the greatest thing that happened in basketball in the state of Utah ever, to have him be that guy. And I don't know how we're going to figure that out. And Danny and all the Angels are going to figure out how in the world can we get this guy to be a part of the Utah Jazz. If that happens, man, everybody. I mean, the crazy thing is they sell all these games out even when they're losing. I mean, these are the most loyal fans in the country. And but to see an AJ find himself a place with the Jazz would really, really put smiles on everybody's faces in this state.
Well, one thing that could happen is they could get really fortunate in the draft lottery. But the other thing that could happen is he'll be a free agent at some point, and I feel like he's been heavily recruited for the last year, if you know what I mean. And I think
yeah. No, I agree with that. And we'll kind of see how that plays out. And a lot of these things too. I mean, I'm not is prepared right now to talk about the draft and the upcoming draft and things. I usually get myself prepared for that, and I will shortly here over the next few days. But I do really think that the Jazz need to be doing everything that they potentially can and possibly can to get that guy, keep him here in Utah. And I don't know how that plays out. I don't know what trades are involved or what the circumstances are. But for AJ especially, I mean, usually you're going to go to a team that has struggled and is not playing well. The Jazz could kind of fit that mold too. But I just think that would be a game changer for this whole state. So hopefully they're working on that, and we'll figure out how we can find a way for AJ to be a part of basketball here in Utah. But that's what we're all hoping for and looking for. And no matter where AJ goes, I do believe that he'll have way more of an impact. And the Boozers are amazing. Cam and Caden are both great players. Cam is probably more prepared than Caden, but they're not AJ. AJ is more prepared than either one of those players, and I think can have an impact in the NBA immediately.
So we see that the news coming down, Northern Iowa's Ben Jacobson going to go to Utah State, 55 years old. And my first thought was, okay, these guys all have a resume that is something that you would look at and say they're qualified to take this job, really no matter who they were going to hire, most likely. I have about a 99% feeling that I would say, yeah, they're qualified, right? So we put that off to the side. Being 55 as opposed to being late 30s, early 40s leads me to believe that maybe there might be some continuity. Nobody has any idea. You can't guarantee anything. But I'm just trying to think, when you moved, and clearly you took that Fresno State job because it was home, but you were a little older. When you went into that mindset, did you think that was going to be it? That this is where you were going to coach for the rest of your career?
I think when I look back on that, and it's easy to look back and thought, well, what was I thinking? But, I mean, when you look back and you're going back home to kind of rebuild another program, and we had been kind of successful doing that at BYU, and so it made sense to kind of have that opportunity to go back and do that. I'm Ben Jacobson, I don't know. But I can tell you this, that being from Northern Iowa and being a head coach for 20 plus years, he is a little bit older. I mean, it just seems like a perfect fit for Utah State. It's like every coach they've ever had. I'm not saying that in terms of age, but here's another guy that's been in a mid-major, which Utah State has been, and they've had success. I don't know anything about this guy, but the fact that he spent 20 years as a head coach at Northern Iowa, and yes, he is a little bit older and probably a lot wiser than a lot of the coaches. I think and I don't know anything about him, but the fact that he's from Northern Iowa tells me that he's had to grind and work and do everything he could to be successful there, and he's done that. And I like the hire. I look forward to reading about him and getting to know him and seeing what he's doing. But from the outside looking in, it just seems to be a good fit. And I don't know anything about the guy, but I know what I know about Northern Iowa. I know what about mid-majors and what they do and how hard it is to be successful. This seems like a good fit.
He went there as an assistant coach and he worked for Greg McDermott, who people may know from Creighton and Iowa State. How much do you look at that and use that to help color in your perspective too?
Oh, a huge piece. I mean, Greg McDermott, this is someone that I've watched and I know. And, you look at the people that are put in place and that have impact on other players on other coaches. And, you look around this country and you start looking at mid-major coaches and what they've done. And certainly Greg McDermott is a guy that has had an influence and has been a mentor to coaches. It just seems to be a good fit. And I think for whatever reason, and I don't know the history, I know all the people that have coached there, but Utah State, in my mind, has been the most consistent program in the state for years and years, that you just know what you're going to get. I'm not suggesting they're Final Four teams, but year in and year out, big wins, toughest place to play in this state. And I know, that BYU has a fan base that's amazing, but it's not Utah State. It's hard to win there. I coached there, and I've been in big arenas, and they usually attract mid-major coaches, and I don't see this not being any more successful than it has been in the past. I think it's a great hire, not knowing him, but just knowing where he comes from and what the circumstances are. At 55, I think the transition will be smooth and it will have an immediate impact on that program. They're not going to take a step back with Ben Jacobson.
Yeah, too, when you hear and see these things, I immediately go to their roster and see who's good.
Yeah.
I mean, they're doing that with Randy Bennett going to ASU, and, St. Mary's has been good, and I had a couple conversations with people in that area, and they're like, okay, who can he bring? Sprinkle, when he came, brought a couple of guys that made an immediate difference. I mean, big-time difference for the Aggies that year. And so that's the way you look at these things. You saw Jason Beck, the kid who was coordinator for Utah for only one season. Who did he bring? He brought the quarterback with him from New Mexico. And, wow, they had an awesome offense. And now all of a sudden Jason Beck is the coordinator in Michigan. How incredible is that? And Devin Dampier's like, oh, wait a second. How come I didn't get any credit for that? Because he brings them. and that was a large reason why they were so good, because that young man, when he was healthy, was very electric. It's kind of crazy the way things are these days.
Yeah, you know what? Speaking of that, well, I don't want to get off on a tangent. I have a good friend, Heath Schroyer. You guys know Heath. Yeah. And he's been at McNeese State. He's been an athletic director there, and he's now the athletic director at LSU, associate athletic director. And there's been lots of changes in that part of the country, and I'm so happy for him. But it's the same thing. You just never know what's around the corner. And I'm in touch with Heath quite a bit. We're close, but even he, I don't think, could have seen that happen. Will Wade is now, he was a head coach, and he was at McNeese State with Heath. And it's just amazing how things happen. And all of a sudden, here's Heath, who has been a coach and then has been an AD there, and now is associate AD at LSU. That's a significant jump. But you just never know what's going to happen, and how it happens. And congratulations to Heath, because that's a huge jump going to LSU. But you take a look at Ben Jacobson and where he's been and what he's done. Everybody's got a story, and I love the stories. And just year in and year out, guys get jobs, and people that nobody knows. All of a sudden, they're in the NCAA tournament and upsetting people. That's the beauty of college basketball. You just know year in and year out, there's always a surprise. There's always an upset, and that's why we love this game.
Steve, we'll leave it right there. We appreciate your time as always. Thanks for joining us.
Take care, guys. Have a great week.
There's Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, joining us right here on The Zone, one of our favorites. And another one of our favorites is coming up at 9 o'clock. Turns out not everybody in Oklahoma is happy with the way Utah is tanking, PK. We'll talk with Barry Trammell about that.
Yeah, they've had two great examples of tanking. The Wizards game was the poster child for tanking and what they put out there in that product. And then the game against Denver when they sat guys who were playing well. I think right now, if I'm on the Jazz, the goal is to play well enough that I sit in the fourth quarter.
There it is. It's a true sign of improvement right there.
I know I've
arrived.
All
right, DJ PK. It's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Ace Bailey, he didn't come in, kick in the door and say, "This is my team now, everyone."
Absolutely, that's a big part of it. But
which I think is a great sign, actually.
Had the Jazz needed Ace to do what he did last night all season, this would have been a team that had a good rookie and had a really long future still ahead of them.
Yeah, nothing else.
And that's not going to be the case. And that's where this really gets interesting for me with what does Ace's future look like. But him doing this now is probably the best time for the Jazz. Nobody else is playing. He's just getting a lot of opportunity. He's getting a taste of what this stardom looks like. And then he's got to come back and fit in with another roster next year.
Yeah, he's got the pull-up. He's got the three. Man, that's a good-looking shot.
Yeah.
He's bouncy.
Yep.
He's blocking shots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's everything you want to see from a rookie making progress.
Catch Jake and Ben weekdays from 10 to noon on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Hey, I'm Josh Spiegel, host of the podcast Lunatic in the Newsroom. If you enjoy journalism that drifts into mild panic, wild overthinking, and a guaranteed nervous breakdown, Lunatic in the Newsroom is for you. It's news like you've never heard before. The only newsroom with a panic button. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and gasp in horror as the show spirals completely out of control. It's not just news, it's emotionally unstable. Lunatic in the Newsroom. Listen today.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. PK, we have multiple stories converging. It's all about college basketball this morning. The Aggies have their new head coach. They're getting Ben Jacobson out of Northern Iowa, who's been the head coach there for 20 years, an assistant for 5 years before that for Greg McDermott, who went on to success with Iowa State and with Creighton. And it's the Final Four. And watching some of these teams and the way they defend, and watching our local teams and the way they may have struggled to defend at times. BYU opponent shot 45% this year. That's not good enough. That number's got to improve. Utah opponent shot 48%. That's not good enough. And looking at Ken Pomeroy's numbers at kenpom.com, Northern Iowa, 25th in the nation in defensive rating this year, number one in their league. And, you know, you get to these different leagues and the quality of competition and the talent can vary widely. So you might want to look more at the league number than the national number. But either way, they catch your attention, top 25 and number one in their league. So you get a little idea what he might bring to Utah State, and we're certainly seeing it pay off because UConn, that was a heck of a defensive performance in the second half. As Steve Cleveland said, the turnovers that led to quick points at the other end, those were a big deal. And UConn was sitting there defending, controlling guys who, well, one of them is going to go top 3 in the draft, but there's a couple other pros on that team. That was really impressive.
Well, not all turnovers are created equally. You have to be able to allow your defense to set up, and you're making those live ball turnovers, free throw line or above, that's going to lead to 2 points, if not 3 the other way. I think colleges are more inclined to take the ball to the basket rather than have 2 guys run to the corner and jack up a 3.
They are, but UConn try to pull up 3 in transition from the top of the key, and I flinched and thought of you immediately when that happened. But they won anyway, so what the heck?
Yeah, I think that because I think if you look at college basketball, it has not changed as dramatically as the NBA has. It seems like big guys still have an extremely important role in college basketball, more so than they do in the NBA. And I think Arizona's an example of that. And UConn's got a couple of big guys themselves. I mean, you got to do a lot of different things. I mean, if the more versatile you are, the better you're going to be. And I think that we see that with UConn, the way that they play, and certainly with Arizona. I mean, they throw a bunch of big dudes at you. Cole Pete probably has the best pro potential going forward, and we'll see how his game translates to the NBA because, there's plenty of good players in college that their game just doesn't work for whatever the reasons might be. At the NBA level, now they can go overseas and make some money, so that's still pretty cool. But you look at it, and I think it's a battle of more traditional way of the way basketball is played. And you look at Arizona, I mean, they're the classic example of big guys and not shooting threes. What do they only take, about 16 threes a game? Yep. I mean, my gosh, that's poultry the way the game's played these days. Yeah. And so I sort of like that, To me, I'm fine with the threes as long as they're going in. Or when someone is wide open. My 2 criteria for threes for me, whatever that's worth, which is nothing, is if you're open and your feet are set. Not if you're coming down and you're going full speed and then you stop and get the ball. Yep. No, I don't like that. I want your feet set about 2 seconds before you receive the ball. Then there's that. And then other example would be take the 2 if you have it. If it's there and you're a good shooter, take it. Don't just simply, I have an open or I have a lane to the bucket and I can probably get there, but no, I'm going to throw it out. Now, those are the times that I don't like it. And I think the NBA has a problem with that. To me, there's too many threes. That's just me. Other people may love it, and that's great. So I'm not telling them they need to change. I'm saying for me, and I still watch the game, so it's not like I'm not watching. They've got me hooked. But I do get a little bored with 7 straight possessions of teams on both sides chucking up threes. Now, if you make 5 of them, well, that's another story. But it just seems like there's oftentimes that doesn't happen. College is a little more traditional in that way, and in a way, and clearly the NBA is miles ahead in talent in the college game. No one's arguing that. But with that in mind, that's drawn me back into the colleges a little bit more, is to see more of a traditional way of playing as opposed to being so reliant on threes.
There's no doubt the college game has changed less than the pro game. And I think getting deep into this tournament, Arizona is the best example of the willingness to use that old school post play and post moves. But really, almost all of the really good teams were effective in the Duke, obviously with Boozer, really effective in the post. I thought Purdue went into the post quite a bit. It pretty much seemed to be nonstop, and it was effective. They were getting in one of the games, and I don't remember which one. They even had a graphic on points per possession because they'd done the math and were making a point of like, this is an efficient way for this team to play. They're getting enough points per possession, which not every team gets, and certainly they've struggled with that in the NBA, trying to figure that out. And then the other thing is, there aren't as many. It's like every NBA team has these guys who are 6'10", 7 feet, and it seems like there's always a second or third guy coming in for a block. And Cam Boozer got a really good block early in the game yesterday where he was the second guy. And whoever, I forget who was shooting for UConn, but whoever it was, driving and a fake, and they got the first guy off balance and they went up around him. And then Boozer just comes swooping in and swats the thing. But the colleges don't have as many of those guys. And that ability to help with these really big players makes it harder and harder to score inside unless you spread people out to the three-point line. And the Jazz are going to be a great example of this next year. They're going to have 3 7-footers. Now we'll see how committed they are to defense and that whole, quote, flying around thing. But theoretically, they should be taking away a lot of those hoops. But I get your point about the college game because it did resonate. Sitting with me, watching those Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games, there was a ton of post play. There was a lot.
I don't really think of Markkanen as a 7-footer, despite his height.
Yeah, I know.
He has to show me that he's willing to.
You got to show the willingness and the effort to defend. Are you going to be flying around? You're long and you can do it if you want, but are you going to?
Yeah, it depends on what the matchups are. Yeah. And he's so good at the other end that I'm not sure that I wanted to. That's where the team aspect comes in to where you're looking at if you have a Kessler and you have a Jackson who can defend on the perimeter and you have a Kessler who can block the rim essentially, the Markkanen can be freed up to do other type of stuff. And so you have to that's what we were talking about last week with Locke and a kid like Keontae George who's going to go for, he's going to average over 20. I don't know if he's going to play again the rest of the year, so his numbers might already be locked in. And he's coming up. That's what's going to be fascinating with Will Hardy is how he develops. Now, they're going to get a higher first-round pick. Maybe they can get a bonanza or, maybe in the top 5. So you're probably going to get a decent player there, right? That's the way it's looking right now. And combined with the return of the guys that they have, how is Hardy going to fit everything together? Because George is coming up on his opportunity for the second contract, but yet he may have to sacrifice way more than anybody else next year because you can't have everybody shooting the ball. How's it going to play?
Yeah,
and I'm fascinated to see that.
Yeah, that must have been a good discussion because you must have spurred a lot because I saw stuff on social media about exactly that point. And I saw people, well, Keontae's not going back and he's not going to be the number 3. And I'm like, well, he's going to have the ball to start the offense, which Jackson and Markkanen aren't. So that's going to be one advantage for him getting shots. And I get why we're talking about it now, but I just wonder if Austin Ainge is going to make a deal or two this summer and it's just going to be like, it's been I don't know that these guys are all coming back. I don't know that we're looking at the right group of guys. The group of guys who start, are there still 1 or 2 guys who are going to be in the mix that we don't know yet? Maybe they'll acquire bench guys. I wonder how it's going to play out.
Yeah, but that further complicates life for George. That doesn't eliminate it. Just because you have the ball doesn't mean you're going to have the freedom to shoot as many times as you've had this season.
You're going to have the temptation, but that's not going to be the direction necessarily.
And then if you don't do what the coach is telling you to do,
that could be a speed bump right there, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Pothole in the old road.
And Riley Jensen, the mental health performance, he was pushing the idea of honesty there and saying that, okay, it may be something that is upsetting in the short term, but if he does what he's told to do and then they start winning, that really limits your ability to complain because you come off as a selfish player. If the team gets off to let's say first 25 games and 15-10, whatever, which I think is, obviously we don't know the schedule, but that seems like with the talent they have, a 15-10 start is not outrageous, right? No. And so after losing for 4 years, people will be excited because then you're really you're in the playoff race. We're getting to Christmas, and you're in the race anyway, not completely and totally in until you actually are. So with that in mind, how's that all going to work out? because you're not going to tell Ace Bailey to go back. And Jaren Jackson comes over. Jaren Jackson has the best resume on the team. That's inarguable, right? And Markkanen has been somewhat of a loyal soldier, although they're paying close to $50 million, so I'm not bleeding for the guy here. But now it's his time. If it's not next season, then it's never.
When?
How's that all going to fit?
We'll see who it is and who fits. And here's the other thing is we talk about it like these guys are going to play all 82, and they're not. So the messages are going to be a little mixed, which can be a positive or a negative, depending. It's like, tonight's not your night, but this guy's going to miss 15 games.
Yeah, but I'm not worried about February. I'm worried about April, the second half of April and May, and hopefully June.
Now you're talking playoffs.
So I don't care what.
Well, that'll be a whole new bucket of cold water because David Locke has just driven this point home, and he's right. So why not? It's like their regular season games are going to come with so much more pressure next year. They haven't felt anything like that. There's been no expectation to win these last 4 years. And then the playoff, the level of energy there will be a whole nother layer on top of that. And that goes back to your point. Yeah, Jaren Jackson, he'll know what that's all about because he's obviously played a bunch of playoff games. But for everybody else, Markkanen included, brand new experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll have to figure it out. But they'll feel more pressure in the regular season than they felt before. And then the playoffs, that'll really be something completely different. So, all right, we got to take a break. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Coming up, Barry Trammell, top of the hour. Stay with us.
This is JJ and Alex. I got this.
And the Mammoth obviously have a lot of work cut out for them still because they are now at a point where, again, I hate looking at the percentages, JJ. Doesn't it make you nervous to go, yeah, right now they sit at 76.5% to be that wild card one team. There's so much hockey still left to be played.
Yeah, that percentage can drop quickly if you lose 4 straight again. Overall, you're looking at where this team is at. They're in that number 1 wild card spot. They control their own destiny. I would rather be in that number 1 wild card spot than in the number 3 central spot because if you're the Wild, you're either playing the Avalanche or the Stars in the first round. That's brutal.
It is.
I would rather be the Mammoth. You're going to be playing a first-round playoff series against the Ducks, and then you get the winner of the Oilers and Knights in the next round. I'd rather do that than get the Stars or Avalanche in the second round. If they're in that number 1 wild card spot with as good as that team is, there's a path for them to go on a long run in the playoffs, not just win a series.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 7 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Hi, this is Alex Kantrowitz. I'm the host of Big Technology Podcast, a longtime reporter and an on-air contributor to CNBC. And if you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. So each week on Big Technology, I bring on key actors from companies building AI tech and outsiders trying to influence it, asking where this is all going. They come from places like NVIDIA, Microsoft, Amazon, and plenty more. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, in meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts.
Mom, can you tell me a story?
Sure. Once upon a time, a mom needed a new car.
Was she brave?
She was tired, mostly. But she went to Carvana.com and found a great car at a great price. No secret treasure map required.
Did she have to fight a dragon?
Nope. She bought it 100% online. From her bed, actually.
Was it scary?
Honey, it was as unscary as car buying could be.
Did the car have a sunroof?
It did, actually.
Okay, good story.
Car buying you'll want to tell stories about. Buy your car today on Carvana. Delivery fees may apply.
The Utah Mammoth crushing the LA Kings 6-2 Saturday night. Logan Cooley and Alexander Kerfoot score 2 goals apiece. Mikhail Sergachev sets a team record with 4 assists. Head coach Andre Tourney proud of the team's showing against the Kings.
Unbelievable commitment from the boys. They were engaged, intense, Our gap was phenomenal. The D played a hell of a game, all of them. Our 6D played really, really solid. Like the way we play in our zone, and obviously that generated offense for us. Our forecheck was really good, especially early in the game, and our special team were elite as well. So it's a great night.
Mammoth are off until Thursday when they play the Kraken in Seattle. That's your Mammoth at 50 update.
And now, your Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer strong play of the weekend.
Saar gets it into Cam Boozer. Boozer back to Saar. Now ahead to Caden Boozer, and UConn got a steal. Caravan for Mullins. Long three. He got it. Oh, he got it. He hit it. He hit the long three-pointer from the logo with 0.3 of a second left to go. I don't believe it. UConn has taken the lead.
There's your Chevy Strong play of the game. Know it today after 3 o'clock. JJ and Alex will call for it, and you will have a chance to win fabulous prizes. Epic finish for UConn. Legendary comeback, down 19. Not the biggest comeback in NCAA tournament history, but on the list. Enough that they put the list up on TV. And there was BYU's 25-point comeback in a playing game. It's a little different. This one was for a trip to the Final Four, a thriller. So know it today at 3 o'clock. You got anything that comes to mind that compare it to? You talk about being a prisoner of the moment. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen.
Well, we've had game-winning shots in the final. I mean, the Villanova kid hitting a three. I remember it. I was in Palm Springs at the time. It was over spring break. We know Jordan hit one. Keith Smart hit one. So, I mean, if you want to go in that direction, obviously the NC State was the most bizarre way. What was that, 83 or 84 or 85, somewhere in there? That was incredible on that one. And we didn't really know it at the time, but you had two Hall of Famers on Houston's team. I mean, legendary players, top 50 players, and they still found a way. And then Valvano dies. I think he was only like 47 years old. I mean, that's still, I think that not only comes close, I think it exceeds it.
Big news of the day, Utah State has a new basketball coach, Ben Jacobson, leaving Northern Iowa. And a tweet here in the last hour from someone I've never heard of, Casey Smurthwaite, who's apparently a former administrator and coach and now does consulting work. But he has clipped what looks like Ben Jacobson's contract extension, which says with 5 days written notice, if he provides that in acknowledgement of past quality of services and volunteering prior financial sacrifices, his buyout is $0. That's pretty unusual right there. Now, the buyout for Calhoun was $3.9 million. And I'd assumed all along some of that was going to have to go somewhere else unless they hired an assistant coach, which hasn't really been what's happened with them before and wouldn't think happened at this level. I thought they'd buy out a head coach somewhere, but man, not having to pay any buyout, that leaves them a little extra money to work with right there. So there's another little bonus worked into this news that's breaking this morning.
Well, he would always be able to give him 5 days notice. I mean, that's don't sign anything until 5 days.
Right.
So,
which is apparently what he did. Yeah.
Of course. I wouldn't expect a big buyout out of a 55-year-old coach from Northern Iowa. I guess $0 is something that is a surprise, but I don't.
But if it were $500,000 or $1 million.
Yeah. I don't know if it makes much of a difference. That I think that the good thing is that Calhoun was talking about the university kicking in money that they haven't. To be able to up the NIL. So Utah State is talking a good game as far as wanting to go in and compete at the Pac-12 level with, it's basically the Mountain West Part 2 with a couple other schools and all that stuff. And in Gonzaga in basketball, not football, obviously. So with that in mind, the opportunity for Utah State's the two primary sports combined, I don't know that it's ever been better for them to be having this type of success that they want. Now, they're going to obviously have to go up against Gonzaga in basketball, and they're going to have to go up against Boise State in football. And I think Washington State and Oregon State have an opportunity. Oregon State's been a little bit of a problem, but I think Washington State is settled. So we'll see what those schools do in those games here and those programs as they transition. I would think Oregon State and Washington State would be okay now that they've regrouped. The shock of the setback must have been something that was you couldn't comprehend, that they got left out and the other 10 teams went scattering. Well, we're past that a couple years now, so that's settled. So I would suspect that they would be able to rebound and find a way to be competitive, and Utah State see what they can do. It's a fascinating situation for them going forward, but it looks like they're set up in basketball and football to be okay. Whether they are or not remains to be seen.
Yeah, but from a kind of a structure and financial standpoint, it does feel like this is a high watermark.
And stability.
Especially, and stability. The challenges they've been up against in the past have been massive. And it seems like they're scaling that wall to a good degree.
Right. They've got a local athletic director, so maybe he stays. They've got a local football coach, and probability of he staying, and then you just got a new basketball coach. And I'm going to assume, and maybe it's too big of an assumption, but I'm going to assume he's going to be here in a 3 to 5 year range.
DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Barry Trammell next. Oklahoma City not thrilled with the Jazz and the tanking. We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
I sold my car in Carvana last night.
Well, that's cool.
No, you don't understand. It went perfectly. Real offer, down to the penny. They're picking it up tomorrow. Nothing went wrong.
So, what's the problem?
That is the problem. Nothing in my life goes as smoothly. I'm waiting for the catch.
Maybe there's no catch.
That's exactly what a catch would want me to think.
Wow, you need to relax.
I need to knock on wood. Do we have wood? Is this table wood?
I think it's laminate.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's close enough.
Car selling without a catch. Sell your car today on Carvana. Pickup fees may apply.
Make game day yours. Tickets, food and drinks, stats, and streaming. Everything you need is in the Utah Mammoth app. Download today and make game night easy. Download on both Android and iPhone. Tossed top.